Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Aliens and Angels Live podcast. This is our weekly Q&A community chat, and today I'm pleased to bring you our very first online meet and greet. This is your chance to share the stage with me and meet some other people who share your enthusiasm for all things ET. Or, if you'd rather, join our lively discussion and become part of the conversation through our live chat. The link to join us on stage will be posted during the show in the live chat. And you're welcome to join our Facebook group, also called Aliens and Angels. All of the links are featured below in the description. Check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and share my content with your friends. So we're just waiting for people to arrive. I sent out the links to the podcast to Don Rogers at March 4th Productions and also Allison Yellowknee. But if any of you are interested in coming up on the stage and joining our meet and greet, you're more than welcome to do so today. So I'm noticing that no one has shown up yet. So I think what I will do is just give you a rundown of what to expect on the Aliens and Angels podcast coming up this fall. So September the 8th, we have a group discussion called ET and Humans, Evolution or Creation. So a lot of people firmly believe in evolution theory, and a lot of people believe in creation stories. So which do you think had a hand in developing or creating or coming into be both ETs and humans? And the week after that, September 15th, the discussion will be ET or future us. So there have been grays, what appear to be grays, that have come back and claim that they are us in the future. And so that's another very interesting discussion. So September the 8th and 15th are the final two of our community discussions until the winter time. And after that, I've got a list of amazing guests. Each one has had ET contact in one way or another, and they're coming on the show to talk about their adventures and answer your questions. So September 22nd will be Preston Dennett. As you know, Preston has been a MUFON investigator for many years, and he's published over 30 books about ET contact. So he's really quite an expert in his field. And so he'll be on September 22nd. September 29th, I'm having Nancy Thames on as my guest. Nancy worked for the Department of Defense in the United States of America, and she has been an abductee all her life. And she's got many, many interesting things to share with you about her contact experiences from the time she was a small child. And of course, she will be happy to answer any questions you might have for her. October the 6th, I'm having the Kinsella twins on. Philip and Ronald have both had extraterrestrial contact, actually at the same time as children. And they've gone on to publish numerous different books and all kinds of projects. And again, they will be here to answer your questions. Now, next October 13th, we have Preston Dennett back on with Dolly Safran. So those of you who are familiar with Preston's work, he published a book called Symmetry, which is the true adventures of Dolly Saffron. And so she's going to be back to talk about her experiences and what's the state of ET contact today, things like that. So please do join us for that. October 20th is Eric Wood. Now, Eric has had what we would call crypto-terrestrial experiences and contact, and he's also interviewed hundreds of people with all kinds of experiences with ET. And so he's a good person to have on, and I know you'll want to catch his interesting episode. October 27th is Jeff Selver, and Jeff has written a book about 26 different groups of grays. And he basically went into seclusion and became a bit of a hermit out in nature. And he was contacted by ETs and given this information so he could write his book. And then there is, in November, we're going to have some more guests. But I just want to tell you all the guests that we're having on September 22nd, 29th, October 6th, 13th, and 20th is actually with Grays, what we would call the Grays. And then in November, I don't have confirmed dates yet, but I'll be having Elsa Dillon on. She's had extensive transdimensional, interdimensional, and ET contact. Samuel Chong, who was the interpreter for a book called The Theoba Prophecy, which is all about an author's journey to another planet called The Ninth Planet. And Samuel was a translator for those novels. And we're going to have even more people on. So that's the lineup coming up this fall on Aliens and Angels. I hope you will share out this live podcast with your friends. And of course, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And I'm hoping that you will like my episodes so that it can move my show further out into the algorithm. As many of you know, YouTube will not monetize me. They say that my content is dangerous and misleading. And of course, I don't agree at all, but there is not much I can do about the decisions they make. It's their business, their company. But I'm also shadow banned on many platforms, so it would be doing me a great honor and favor to share out my videos with your family and your friends. Let's see, we did get a comment in the comment section, but it just looks like a bunch of symbols, so I can't make heads nor tails of it, so I'm not going to share that out with you. And we'll give people a few more minutes to show up. It is a long weekend, the Labor Day weekend, and I know there's a lot of people out traveling for their last chance to get out, especially if they have children before school starts next week. So it was kind of a hit or miss on whether we would have very many people show up today. We were supposed to do a live meetup here in Red Deer, Alberta today, but circumstances were such that I was not able to make that happen. And so that's why we're doing the live meet and greet today. So again, if you'd like to come up on the stage and share in the meet and greet, you're more than welcome to do so. And I think what I will do now is post the link here in the comment section in case any of you would like to join me on stage. So so I'm very interested in what's coming up this fall. Like I said, we're going to have numerous guests with extensive experience, and I know that you're very interested and keen to find out more about those experiences. And your chance to ask them direct questions and hear what they have to say. I know tomorrow night, which is September the 2nd, on Preston Dennett and Dolly Saffron's channel called The Light Gate, they are going to have also open mic where anybody can participate in the live chat, ask them questions, and get the answers they're looking for. So I just wanted to put a shout out to Dolly Saffron and Preston Dennett for their show, in case you've missed it or you haven't already subscribed to Preston Dennett's channel or watched the Light Gates. Very fascinating and very interesting show. So let's see how we're doing here. It is 10 minutes into the show and nobody has showed up. So, I'm not really sure what to do in the meantime. I'm thinking perhaps what I will do is show an interesting clip that I have here. I don't know if this clip is a real thing or not, but it's interesting. So I thought I would just quickly show that while we're waiting for people to show up to the meet and greet. What I think is really interesting about this clip is the woman in the uniform is wearing high heels, and she's half as tall as these other two beings. And I actually think it is a real clip because I've had contact with extraterrestrials. As most of you know, I'm working on my book right now. And the beings are quite a bit taller than us. So I'm like 5'6", 5'7", and they are definitely over 6'5". They're about 7 feet tall. Some are even taller than that. There's the odd being who's actually shorter than me, but mostly they were taller with larger frames and much healthier than what we are. And so I think it might be a real clip, but it might not be, because today in the modern day of CGI, who knows, and AI generated deep fakes and things, who knows? Like, who knows? We can only rely on our own experiences. So on that happy note, I'm not sure if anyone's going to show up, and there's no point just keeping you waiting. Those of you obviously who are watching the replay, if I don't have interesting content for you, there's no purpose in me being on here. So I think what I will do, though, if you don't mind hanging out for a short promotion, and I am going to play a short promotion, and as soon as I find it, there it is, and I'll be right back. Hi guys, break time for a short message. YouTube will not monetize me, so if you enjoy my content and want to support my efforts, help me to cover my expenses by visiting my shop to buy yourself a beautiful orgone generator. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand, and they are ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. Many people are finding comfort with Zendome's orgone generators, commonly called Orgonite. They are a simple compound which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They are a simple compound with alchemic and energetic properties. These devices function as self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient, negative to positive energy transmutation factories. They help diminish the harmful effects of electromagnetic frequency radiation by attracting and converting negative energies, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns, and they help to purify the atmosphere and accelerate plant growth. They also help stimulate positive mood and are a natural remedy for poor sleep patterns. When orgonite is within range of any corded or wireless electronic device, it will efficiently and continuously transform that energy into orgone as it is being transmitted. This essentially creates orgone energy transmitters out of any and all emitters of harmful negative energy. You can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to bring on to the stage Don Rogers and Canadian Spinja. Hi, guys. Nice of you to join us today. Allison Yellowknee was also said that she would be here, but she hasn't been able to come yet. But it being a long weekend, who knows? People got other things happening. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Spinja is not exactly camera ready yet. I literally just got in the door. I got an extra shift because of the long weekend, and that's why I was late. But thank you for doing this. It's great to get part of the community together and get people chatting.
Mm-hmm. I
She can
agree.
hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Pardon?
I'm here.
She can hear you. She's just not camera ready.
That's okay. That's okay. Listen, you don't have to come on camera. You can just participate from the live chat and I don't even know how long we'll actually be on the show today because like I said earlier, there's no point in me just not having any content to offer people for them to come back to the replay. So it looks like we don't have really anybody in the chat. You're the only one that showed up, Don, and Canadian Spinja, and I'm grateful for that. But you know, it might be just a very short session today. So
Okay.
and no pressure for you to be on either. Like I said, you could just participate from the live chat. I don't know if you've even had a chance to have lunch yet.
No, but I generally only eat like once a day, so.
Yeah, I eat maybe once or twice a day. There's Angel Wings says hello, and she says that she just woke up. And yeah, I don't have a particular topic today, but I'm wondering if you have anything you want to share, Don.
I would actually like to share, since this is the one about community, the backstory of how we became friends and even know each other, if you want to rehash that, because it's a really fascinating story. It does have to do with Spinja, myself, and you, realistically, because Spinja had been on her deep dive on podcasts and trying to figure out what was going on in her world and what was going on around us. And she came. Now, how did that go? Did you come across Karen first or Chris?
I came across Karen through Chris.
Yeah. She had seen Chris Matthew and then discovered you. And for quite some time, you became known as Red Deer Lady because I could not remember your name. Right. So it was just Red Deer Lady. And, you know, when we started getting into this whole thing, you know, I was like, this is really neat. I went on Rob's podcast, and then she had actually said, you know, at some point I'm going to hug that lady. And you were still Red Deer Lady at that point. You weren't even Karen to us yet. But she had just put this intention out that at some point she was going to hug Red Deer Lady. We had no idea what that looked like or how it was going to happen, but she knew she was going to manifest that hug. Right. And so through a long series of events that we're all familiar with, or if not, go back and check Karen's episodes, because the whole thing's been explained before. But it was probably about, what, 2 months ago that hug happened?
It's been a little longer than that.
Sorry, time dilation. I have no concept. But several months ago, that hug actually happened. So it's been a really neat journey, and I've really appreciated becoming part of this community. And you have been such a fundamental mentor and friend during my awakening that I pretty sure you have a very large part and play in my sanity at this point. So I have nothing but love and respect for you, Karen, and always will, because you played a huge role in stabilizing my awakening when it was out of control.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. But to be quite honest with you, I don't feel like I have done anything really that spectacular. It is interesting to see, though, how you go to different podcasts and you realize we're all part of the same community. So there's Chris Matthew, who has Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge Network, which you're now a part of. And he's had many, many guests on, and the other partners in the network have had many, many guests. We're all kind of linked, somehow linked together. And then there is Robert Khalil from Typical Skeptic. And he and I are also friends, and you're friends with him, and he's friends with Chris. And it's very interesting how we have formed this really amazing network. Now, there are other podcasters out there that kind of go off in different directions. Some of them we resonate with, some of them not so much, but it's been a real pleasure to get to know you and Canadian Spinja, and to start forming more of an Alberta community. So I just want to also mention that I have two groups on Facebook. One of them is the Aliens and Angels group, which everyone's welcome to join. But then more recently, I took one of my old groups that was not as relevant now as it was when I started it, and I changed the name of that to the Alberta Tinfoil Hat Group. And that group is specifically there to offer support and community for people who live either in Alberta or Western Canada, just so that we can have, some contact, because it means a lot to have people that you physically know, that you physically met, that live, within a drive, or perhaps if you're on the West Coast, a 2-day drive. But anyway, within reach. And I don't know, it just means a lot to me, because sometimes I just wonder if anybody hears what I'm saying, if what I'm doing actually is doing any good. I don't know. Yeah, what do you have to say about all that, Don?
I think that's an absolutely great idea, to be honest, because it's when you're a aware, and especially an aware and neurodivergent person who doesn't fit in anyway, having people that you can relate to and just geek out with, and like, people love when you and I have conversations on the air, but we also have some pretty good ones off the record and stuff, and as well as the people you've mentioned, like Rob Khalil and Chris Matthew and Steven Stathis, and like, there's some really good exchanges of knowledge. And I think the formation of the community, even if it's just a few of us, even if we are stuck in an echo chamber, so to speak, it's helping us educate each other. It's that open school concept of like, okay, Karen knows this, but Don knows how to do this, and Spingy knows how to do this, and Chris knows how to do this. And we're helping educate each other in a manner that is useful in
Mm-hmm.
the real world, not the construct, the real world. What we actually need to know, not the indoctrinated BS system that we're force fed. But no, I think that's a beautiful thing that you're doing with your group and with your shows, is bringing people together, and it is important that we all learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree. Now, you and Canadian Spinja and I recently did a Forbidden Knowledge Network special with Stephen Stathis and Jennifer Halkame. And on there, I explained about the popular education model. So I'm just going to tell everyone a little bit about that, because it's sort of relevant to what we're doing here. So this is back in the early 1900s in South America. There was very high illiteracy. People did not know how to read, they didn't know how to write. They didn't know how to self-govern. They didn't really know how to do all kinds of things that they needed to build healthy communities. And so what they did is there was a man by the name of Paulo Freire, who came up with the idea for the popular education model. And his basic thought was that everybody knows something. And when you bring us all together, we share what we know, and the collective amount of information, wisdom, teachings, learnings is actually greater than the sum of its parts. And through that method, he introduced a literacy program in South America. It was extremely successful. They had a very, very good rate of teaching the children and each other how to read and how to write. And then they carried it over to other aspects of their community. So I was very much inspired by that model, the popular education model. And I sort of bring that to the table, where I believe that each one of us has a piece of the puzzle, or maybe two pieces of the puzzle. And if we can get past what separates us or our differences and come together in mutual respect and share information, we're getting a much bigger picture than we could ever get from the so-called institutions or so-called experts. And so I think that this is really us achieving full disclosure without having to do anything with the government. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that, Don?
I do, and I think that like I love that model of education because like I did not fare well in the public education sector at all. You know, it just never registered to me why, and well, not any of it, but the large portion of it was relevant, and I just could never take it seriously because I felt like I wasn't learning anything useful. And it's not that I was intentionally a bad student, it just didn't get the synapses going. It wasn't interesting to me. I'll tell a personal story really quick. Up until grade 5, they thought I was illiterate, and then we got free reading time, and then I got pulled out of class for what I was reading. They found grade 5 me with the book Stephen King's It. Well, my teacher had been reading over my shoulder and had gotten to a fairly graphic part, and I was immediately pulled out of the classroom. And I'm going to have to censor this next bit because my mom, much like myself, doesn't have a very good filter. They took me to the office and put my mom on speakerphone, and they're like, "Do you know what your son was reading in class?" And my mom went, "Holy, he can read!" And it was just because C Spot Run or the Humpty Dumpty bared no interest even to 5-year-old me because I was beyond it. It made no sense. It was dumb. I didn't want to learn it. I would much rather have been raised in the educational construct that you're talking about, where it's useful information and things that actually serve you in your day-to-day life. Like the fundamentals have been stripped away from our education system. And I don't mean to go on this political soapbox here about how bad the education system is, but it really serves very little purpose in the skills you're going to require in real life.
I agree. And in the greater context of our real lives, which includes the paranormal, the metaphysical, that is a part of real life. So for those who don't know, as about 100 years ago, there was a guy named Descartes, and he separated the seen from the unseen. And the seen went to what became modern science, and the unseen went into the classification of what we consider religion, and the two were separated. But before that, they were never separate, and they're never meant to be separate. It's all one thing. So I agree with you. I find that a lot of mainstream society, including education, it's about as dry as a popcorn fart. It does not interest me. It's lacking substance. It's lacking so much. And I actually did not too bad with education, but it was all memorizing other people's stuff. So basically, when you get into you go through the first 12 grades, and it's all just basic programming. And then you go into your higher education. So you start with a bachelor degree, and then you're learning everything that the people with the master's and doctorate degrees have created, and you accept that as fact and you memorize it. Then when you get into the master level, which is the mid-level, you start to learn how to create reality. It's just all theories. And then when you're in the PhD level, everything you think, say, and do is considered reality. Like it's like that is the privilege that comes from higher education. Meanwhile, nobody examines whether it's any good, whether it's helpful. A lot of it's just bullshit, trends and thinking. And that's gotten us into the mess that we see today. And which is interesting because, so much of our mainstream reality is based on myth and conjecture. And yet, a lot of people don't believe in the extraterrestrial phenomena because there isn't a spaceship landing in their backyard and ETs coming out and shaking their hand. And I think between all of that, there is the truth of we the people that I think is more accurate, more beneficial, and that's what we want to bring together. So that's what we're doing. We're doing today. Angel Wings has another comment. She says, because we got deeper knowledge, they never understood us. I was reading Stephen King books at 14 years old. I read The Talisman in 5 days. LOL. I wouldn't stop reading it until I was done. Yeah, exactly. So I have to say, reading has not been one of my strong suits. I have difficulty concentrating and following the lines, but I'm doing much better now with reading than what I did before. I tend to do better with contact with other people who are interested in or have experiences in the subjects that I'm interested in. And, I'm always looking for things that are novel, things that are new, things that are interesting. I'm learning all the time. I'm watching documentaries all the time. A lot of them are crap too, though. Just because it's in a documentary doesn't mean that necessarily that we should believe it. So I think the whole thing is that we want to get to know each other and see who we resonate with and form our own subgroups and communities. And as long as we have access to online content, then, we're able to do quite well. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Don?
I actually think you touched on a couple of really good things there. Like when you were talking about how we're just taught to memorize and memorize over and over again, there's certain neurotypes that just doesn't click with. Some of us are very tactile. You have to experience it to understand and remember the process. And the idea that you can be taught things just by reading it over and over again and putting it to memory, that's great. I can do the same thing with a parrot. It doesn't mean the parrot can build me a house, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was the experience. Is I was non-neurotypical. I couldn't retain things. I had to do them. And the other thing that you touched on there that I absolutely love is the separation of science and spirituality. Because when, that's the formation of the secret schools and stuff, the ones who actually kept it around, that's where we got a lot of what we're supposed to know stripped away from us. And when the generations before us started to get dumbed down, right? We literally have to form these communities that you're talking about to bring back this ancient and arcane knowledge because it has been passed down. You'll know something, I'll know something, Allison Yellow, Angel Wing, Spinja, we'll all know something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can all teach each other something that's probably been lost, right? So I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and another thing that I have always found interesting is, well, when my kids were in school, they had difficulty with the curriculum. And because we have First Nations ancestry, it's way back, but we have some First Nations ancestry, I was able to get them put into the First Nations curriculum that is offered at most schools now in Canada for Aboriginal people and people of Aboriginal descent. And my children did exceptionally well with the content. And a lot of their teaching method was through storytelling. And First Nations stories are multi layered. So if you hear the story when you're 5, you will learn what's appropriate for a 5-year-old. And when you learn that story or hear it again when you're 16, that's why these were often regularly told at annual events, you would get a very different meaning from it because you'd have a deeper understanding. And on it went when you're a parent, when you're a grandparent, and it would just sort of, the stories have embedded within them wisdom for all ages. And it's very interesting that the colonial or ruling classes of the world, what have they spent so much energy doing? Exterminating the Aboriginal people, whether it's in Australia or North America or, anywhere in the world. It's always about dominating with this sort of European-based culture and wanting to destroy things that teach the truth, because they only have power. The ruling class only has power when they're stealing it from all of us. So, I've got a deep respect for Aboriginal teaching methods and ways of knowing and being. And the more we get involved in ancient cultures, and everybody who I enjoy and respect, like Paul Anthony Wallace and Billy Carson, and so many who I have learned so much from. They all go and do deep dives, not just into Aboriginal culture and teachings, but over time, right back to the oldest writings from the very beginning, as far back as we can go. So I just think that's also very, very interesting. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Don?
Um, Actually, I do think that's a great thing. Like, I didn't even realize, because our young lad has a certain native lineage as well, and it's something that I didn't even know that existed. So I may have to look into it for his remaining school years. Um, because yeah, I I like him. It doesn't make sense. Like, I can't read a book and make it make sense, and I can actually recall one of the things that was my biggest problem is when they first tried to teach me to read. I remember my brain trying to observe every word on the page like it was a picture and I should just understand it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about like at 5 years old when they're like, "Go, okay, these are ABC." I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like I should understand all of it just by looking at it. And it took my brain a while to become indoctrinated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have the cultures that use storytelling and imagery and those things and dance even, it really makes a difference on the way the individual experiences the information, and like you're saying, can revisit it and get something new out of it each time instead of reading the same stupid textbook.
Yep. And I really like what you touched on about dance and music, because now we understand that everything, all of creation in its huge expanse, it's all frequency based. And so dance is a very important way to recombine knowledge and spirituality and ground that right into our DNA and our bodies. And so is music. And so it's also interesting that, I don't know how many years ago, but let's just say roughly 50, maybe 100 years ago, they changed the basic frequency of music from, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 442 or something hertz down to 440 hertz. And so all the music that we've been grooving to in our modern era is actually got a discordant effect on our DNA, our cells, our bodies. And now we have technology with Wi-Fi and 5G and everything else. So I think it's going to take a strong state of mind to keep ourselves healthy in the modern times.
We we actually have a surprise pop in by somebody who has something to say.
Hey, Karen. Hope you're doing well.
Hi.
Um,
Well, so nice to see you, William.
yeah, you too. Sorry, I just heard you guys like talking about like the public education system and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's the like since it's like I'm going back on Tuesday, the part I look like least forward to isn't necessarily just the people. It's like the curriculum itself and like being surrounded by all the screens and the ringing from the smart boards or whatever. Because like I can like physically hear the frequency coming out of it now, and it like gives me
Mm-hmm.
headaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
like
it's awesome that you can recognize that. So if you're interested, you can actually go to, I don't know if they still have guidance counselors or some equivalent to that, and tell them you want to look into participating in the First Nations programs if you're interested in just trying it out. I'm not saying it's necessarily for you. You may not like it, but you might, and you might find it much easier to surround yourself with, because a lot of it is going out into nature, being around the elders, listening to the stories directly from the elders rather than getting a lot of it from the screens. So you
oh,
might
okay.
want to pursue that, and it's covered by the public school system. You don't have to pay for it. It's just part of the program. And my kids just loved it. They did really well, and they both graduated.
Wow, that sounds like interesting. I'll have to check that out because like if there's a way that like I could like just take like all of the elements that make it school and like just like there for like what I need to know to get out, then I'm
You didn't get out.
yeah.
Just like mom.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then failing that, there's always homeschooling too. But anyways, really nice to see you. You look well, and
Yeah,
I
yep,
wish
you as
you the
well.
very
Thank
best.
you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just thought I'd throw that in since we're
Oh, it
talking
was
about
great.
public ed.
It was great. It was nice to meet him this summer, actually. It was nice. For those of you in the audience, Dawn and Canadian Spenja and I guess Ray all participated in the Quantum Health Transformation Program. We did all the workshops. We did 12 or 13 workshops together. That's all available through my website or my YouTube channel. Actually, I think you also have them streamed on your channel, don't you, Dawn?
Yes, I do. I haven't
So,
get the last couple, but I have most of them.
so people can easily find that information. That's a free program too. So it's and it's outside of the box, the whole thing, but it's everything I wished that I had known or that I had access to back when I was going through my awakening process. So I'm hoping it's useful to everybody else. So I noticed that Angel Wings has a comment here that's interesting. She says, my kid has to go back tomorrow as well. She's actually scared to. She doesn't want to. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like if it's kind of like it's like kids intuitively know what to eat, what not to eat. I'm assuming that they don't have access to a bunch of candy and junk, but if they're given their choice between, meats and vegetables and stuff, they'll often not want to eat certain vegetables. You don't find out till years later they had a food sensitivity, but they knew, right? And the same thing goes with the educational system. So there's all kinds of kids that do not want to go. They find it super stressful. They're not getting anything out of it. And unfortunately, for working parents, it often becomes kind of a babysitter situation or like daycare. And what are you supposed to do if you have to work? And most people have to work, right? So I'm not criticizing anyone for sending their kids to school, but as more and more people are working from home, they might actually find it easier to homeschool. And the other thing, too, is once you remove all the crap, the actual lessons, people who homeschool their kids, they do it in 2 hours a day. So even if both parents are working, they're able to somehow work it out that one or the other parent can spend the 2 hours a day with them, and they get a much better quality education than if they were going to the public school all day. So that's just sort of my opinion. I should state that it's my opinion. It's not necessarily rooted in scientific fact, but that's the way I see it.
I agree. And like our mutual friend Rock Castaldo is homeschooling his daughter, and she seems to be just thriving in it. And I think it is a good setup because these kids get inundated with so much filler. I'm going to
Yeah.
be and I'll call it filler
Hmm.
because that's all most of it is nonsense and socialized demographic bullshit. Like it's just there's no other way to explain it. Like they're there just to be trained on how to act like the grown-ups that the society wants us to act like. That's why the school day takes so long. It takes that long to program a mind. Like it
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah. You know, I've had friends from South America and Central America, and they don't separate the children from the adults. They don't have the children going off and playing with each other. It's always a mixed group with all ages, and all, all the boys and the girls and the moms and the dads and the grandparents and the neighbors, and it's a very community based situation. And they don't even have bedtimes for their children. Just when the children start to fall asleep, when they're part of the group, they just lift them up and carefully take them and tuck them into bed. So it's a much more fluid system too. So, getting back to the Aliens and Angels group and our community, I would like to see more of us of different ages coming together. It's nice to see your son involved, but it would be nice to see more younger people involved within the community, more old people. I guess I'm the old person in this group, but I don't mind. I don't actually mind being old. When I go on Seniors Day to get a discount, the people that work in the shops, they're like really scared to ask me if I'm a senior. And I go, oh, yeah, definitely I'm a senior. And I don't mind. I tell them seniors have superpowers. Don't ever be embarrassed about asking someone if they're a senior. At least those who keep their minds intact. They have all kinds of superpowers and a wealth of information and skills to pass on to the community. So I see our community is growing very rapidly. Those of us that are like-minded or similar frequencies, we're coming together, we're getting to know each other. It's a nice group of people. Nothing like what the mainstream has been taught, that they call us a bunch of tinfoil hat wearers, like we're half crazed, that we belong to be locked up in an insane asylum and drugged. And they really paint the nastiest pictures. But it's kind of interesting whenever anybody is stigmatized to that level, that makes me curious. Gee, I wonder what about them is really going on. And then you find out living in mainstream society is like living in an insane asylum, and nobody tells the truth. And when you recognize truth and you look around and you see the culture and that everyone's faking it, that to me is terrifying. I would way rather be around people who are more honest and more authentic.
I That's really funny because Spin and I were just talking about why people react the way they do to her and I and our family in general, and it's like it's because we're ourselves. Like I've got zero F's to give about what anybody wants me to be anymore and who they think I should be by this time at this age in their BS system. And she's of the same mind, and we're trying to raise William to think for himself as well. And when you come across, like, we just do it as our normal nature now. And when you run into somebody that is deeply ingrained in the construct in the 9 to 5 matrix reality, and you come across as energetically open and honest as we are, you tend to get this mouth agape, what the hell are you stare, like, what is, what? Like, most of them can't even comprehend a truly honest and being themselves type person. I really don't have a word for it. I'm not going to try to over articulate it. When you're just yourself, it messes with people because they're like, wow, you were just you. There's nothing there. Like, there's no mask.
Yeah,
And
and how and that reminds me very much like during the COVID era, where if you went out without a mask, people looked at you like you were the worst kind of person. And I think it's a very similar thing. People of specific religions, they often expect everyone else to follow their religious beliefs or the rules that are imposed upon them, as if they have to follow those rules. We all have to follow those rules too. The same thing as our behavior when we're out in public. And those of us who have childlike spirits, we're much more spontaneous, and we're a lot more fun. And other people are going, well, wait a minute, if I have to act like a grown up, you have to act like a grown up too. And no, that's all poppycock. And I think part of our mission is to go out in the world and be authentic. I can remember one time I was in a department store, and I was bouncing the bouncy balls because I like to get a good bounce my bouncy ball, right? So I was bouncing these balls, and these kids were looking at me, and their parents, of course, were very upset because I was setting a bad example for their children who had to behave. And I just said, well, I'm testing them because I got to find the one with the right bounce that I'm gonna get my right bouncy ball, right? So, I used to let my kids run a bit wild too in the stores, like test out the bicycles and things like that. And I've been known to climb into the odd shopping cart and get someone to push me around real fast till I'm squealing, and all kinds of fun stuff. And other people just looking at you like you're breaking some horrible rule. To me, it's more important to be an honest, authentic person who tells the truth, doesn't steal, doesn't lie, doesn't cheat. To me, that's way more important than whether or not I'm hopping into a shopping cart and getting raced around a grocery store. Anyway, I know I'm kind of silly, but I'm kind of a free spirit, and I don't plan on changing anytime soon.
no, 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 no. Any day you want a shopping cart race, you're on.
Yeah, especially when you go to those places that have the big shopping carts, right? They're easier to get in and out of, but yeah. I can
It's
remember
so
one
cute.
time I went into a stationery store, and they used to sell these computer seats. They were really like a bench, and you sort of kneeled on it, and there was a bit of a seat that went behind your butt, and it was on wheels. And I got onto one to test it. And my son started pushing me up and down the aisles and just letting it go. And I was just squealing, having the best time. And usually because of my age, they won't kick me out, but it's definitely frowned upon. And yeah, I'm all for having fun. And I figure I'm supposed to be giving permission for other people to have fun too, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Spin has a picture. It was Halloween. Was it the first or second year we'd been together?
Oh, we'd only been together a couple months.
Yeah, a few months. Like we met in August, so this was October, and she was somewhere with my daughter and William, and I was running around Walmart with a panda head on, and like, yeah, I basically looked like that movie Jackass, except I was just doing it to entertain myself and my family, and really didn't care, right? But I wasn't being destructive. I just thought it was funny that I had a panda head on and was running around Walmart. So
I'll send the pictures later.
yeah, we'll show you the pictures. Yeah. So
Yeah.
absolutely relatable. Stay young. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah. I mean, if you can't have fun, what's the point of being alive? I don't want to be all stoic and serious all the time.
Wing
So,
it.
there's also pictures. We went to Bellevue Park and there was an adult-sized child swing that's on one of those running tracks, and there's a picture of Spinja in it.
No,
And
there's a video.
there's a video, sorry, of her riding this adult-sized child swing, and it was yeah.
hmm And for a while, they came out with what you would call onesies, which are like kind of like a unicorn costume or a dog costume or Spider-Man costume. My son-in-law, he wears his all the time. He'll wear his to Walmart or Costco or whatever, and all the kids go, "Look, there's man." He really likes it. But it's really fun to go out in a group, and you're all wearing your onesies, and you're out walking around, and You don't need a special occasion to do it. You could just do it, whenever you want, and it can be really quite a lot of fun. So we're quickly running out of time, but I just wanted to bring it back to our community. And for those of you who missed the beginning, please do go back and watch the replay. And I'm wondering if, since you Dawn and Spinja missed it, I should probably just quickly go over my list of guests that are coming up for this fall.
Yay!
So again, September 8th and September 15th, which is the next two Sundays, are group discussions, open group discussions. September 8th is ET and Humans, Evolution or Creation. And September 15th is ET or Future Us. But then starting September 22nd, I'm having Preston Dennett on as my guest. September 29th is Nancy Thames. October 6th is the Kinsella twins out of England, Philip and Ronald. And October 13th is Preston Dennett and Dolly Saffron. They're going to talk about their new book. October 20th is Eric Wood, and October 27th is Jeff Selver. And all of these people are ET experiencers and authors and just very interesting people. Most of them, their experiences are with what we call the Greys. And I think everyone would really enjoy that. November, I'm having Elsa Dillon, Samuel Chong, and more people on. So that's what I've got lined up for this fall. So I'm hoping everybody will subscribe if you haven't already done so. Share out these episodes with your family and friends. And of course, come back and share in the live chat as we will go live every week. Dawn, do you want to talk a bit about what you've got going on and where people can find you?
Yeah, of course, all of my stuff and Spinja's stuff is on the Forbidden Knowledge Network and our YouTube channels. Mine's March 4th Productions, Dawn Rogers at March 4th Productions, and hers is Canadian Spinja. Yeah. And I actually have Ra Castaldo on Monday. We're going to probably do a monthly thing. And this week, he's actually going to be going Sanskrit 101 and how it relates to solar light information. And then Elsa, I actually have Elsa coming up next week as well. It'll be Sunday, our day, and Monday, her day. And then who do I have Friday? Anyways, it's all at March 4th Productions. I'm drawing a blank on my dates and guests and everything right now but yeah, some amazing guests, and I'm trying to go more information based, like we were talking about. Like Elsa knows some things, and Dan knows some things, and Ra knows some things, and I just want to talk to these people from a base level and try and help get information back out into society where it belongs.
Yeah, I agree. So that's wonderful. That's all really, really good news. So the other thing I want to tell people is I also have a Wednesday show called the Quantum Guide Show. We go live at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and I interview people from all over the world that have something positive to add to society. So it's always an upbuilding, encouraging show on Wednesday. So I recommend everybody come join us then. And I guess that's it for our meet and greet. Thank you for those who showed up in the live chat. And of course, to Dawn Rogers and Canadian Spinja and Ray. And I guess that's it. And we'll see y'all next week on Aliens and Angels. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Aliens and Angels podcast. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Rumble, and X channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All of the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, You will also find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.